Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 283 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. So have you guys ever been talking to someone and they say something and you immediately think you know what they mean because you've been through the same thing or you've experienced something similar, only to find out a little bit later that it didn't mean the same thing to them at all that it did to you? Or maybe something happens and you jump to conclusions about what it means or what's going on, only to find out that you're wrong. I'll give you a couple examples of how this has happened just this week. I was watching Brooke Castillo coach live, and this woman was saying she was estranged from her daughter. And that's what she wanted to be coached on, is being estranged from her daughter. Now, I immediately could relate. I was like, oh my goodness, that's so horrible, not being able to see or talk to your daughter. That's awful. I mean, I've been estranged from one of my sisters for almost 4 years because of religion, so I understand how hard that can be. I just had all these thoughts about what this meant for this poor woman. Well, on further questioning, it turns out she sees her daughter every week, sometimes twice a week, and talks to her on the phone regularly. Her idea of estranged and mine were so different. Her idea of estranged is just that her daughter got married and their relationship changed. And they're not like living together and they're not thick as thieves like they were before she was married. And now she has a new baby and she's busy. And so she only gets to see her once or twice a week. I was like, what? You are not estranged. My goodness. Now, this so reinforced for me the importance of making sure we never assume what something means to someone. It can mean something totally different. We jump to conclusions so quickly about what things mean from our point of view, and it can be the cause of a lot of problems for us. It is always so good to not react and to never assume. I got myself into another little situation by jumping to conclusions on something else this week. It was really embarrassing for me. So we got back from our vacation in Paris, and I had taken quite a few things to the dry cleaners, as you can imagine. Now, two of those things I really love. The sweater that my brother and his wife bought me that I'm in love with, and then also a dress that Eric bought me. I also love very much. Anyway, the dry cleaning company texted us that our clothes were ready and anytime we wanted to pick them up would be fine. So off we go to get them. Well, when we get there, it's a drive-through, which is great, and they say, oh, sorry, there are two things that aren't ready, so do you mind picking those up next time? To which, of course, we were like, no problem. And so after a kind of a cursory look at the dry cleaning, I didn't see my sweater that I loved or my dress that I loved. Now, in my mind, okay, those are the two things that weren't ready. And so I'm not really worried, but I'm kind of like, okay, I hope everything's okay with them. But so the next time we go to pick up the other items, they said, oh, the tags fell off a couple items, so we're gonna have to find them. Well, now I'm worried and frustrated, and I'm starting to get a little bit upset. And so I tell them, I know exactly what two things they are, and they're like, okay, and they're writing down the descriptions. And so I'm telling them, it's a green sweater and the dress is gray and I love it. And you know what I said? She said, we've got things that are, don't have tags on them. And I said, I'll just come in and help you look and help you identify them. And she at this point is like, okay, crazy lady, you cannot do that. That is not okay. So by now Eric is like, honey, they will find them. They've never lost anything before. It's going to be fine. And she assured me, okay, she would find them and call us as soon as they do, and not to worry. Well, in the meantime, we're driving home, and I'm getting more upset by the minute. Now, I have jumped to the conclusion that they've lost my two favorite things, and they were gifts, and they were expensive, and all the things. And now Eric is like, Heidi, are you sure that you really looked hard in that? Because that was a big order that you picked up last time. I mean, did you look through every single piece? And I said, well, I looked and didn't see them, but I didn't really look hard because they had said they were finishing two things. So I just assumed that's what they were. And he was like, I bet they're in that big dry cleaning. And, I bet they're hanging in there. And so as soon as we get home, I make a beeline to where we hang our dry cleaning. And guess what? There they were. My sweater and my dress were kind of stuck in the back, and I just hadn't seen them. I was relieved, but I was also kind of mortified. I mean, 10 seconds earlier, I would have been hunting through this poor dry cleaner's clothes and looking for something that wasn't there. Would have been very frustrating, even more so frustrating. Now, of course, I immediately called and apologized and told them, hey, I found them. Don't look any further. And I'm so sorry to have put you through that. And they say thank you. I mean, they're not upset. It's fine. But we jump to conclusions about everything. I really jumped to conclusions there. We jump to conclusion about what it means when someone doesn't immediately text us back, or what it means when someone doesn't return a smile at us when we smile at them. I mean, we assume someone is a certain way because of how they look, or thinking we know what someone's thinking. We're trying to mind read. These are things that I honestly can say I work on pretty regularly, but I'm aware of it. So I catch myself mid jumping into conclusion, or mid assuming something, or mid mind reading. We all do it, and it's hurting us. Now, some do it more than others. My husband doesn't have that big of a problem with it. And I think it's because every decision he makes, he analyzes most options before he makes it. I read a study when I was kind of researching this topic where this researcher took 600 people and they showed them two lakes, okay? One lake was mostly redfish and the other lake was mostly grayfish. And they had to decide which lake was being fished as they were shown a fish that was caught. And some of the people would answer on the first fish, like if it was red, well, it must have come from the lake with mostly redfish. Now, some would wait until at least two fish, and others would need to see more evidence before they would ever make a decision. I'm pretty sure after giving it some thought that I'd be one that made a decision after two redfish or two grayfish. I'd be like, oh yeah, it's in the lake with the redfish or the lake with the grayfish. The good thing is, though, I'm aware of it because that doesn't necessarily have to be true. It's mostly redfish. I mean, it could be feasible that you could pull two gray fish out of there. So how quickly do you jump to conclusions? Are you taking in all the information before you do it? But it can be such a source of anxiety and embarrassment too. But awareness allows me to step back and ask, okay, is there another possible option here? Could this mean something different than I think? Like the lady who was estranged, so to speak. I was trying to read her mind and that just doesn't work. And then do I have all the facts? Do I have enough information to make an informed decision? Did I do my due diligence, like with the dry cleaning? I actually recognized I hadn't really looked for my two pieces well because I knew there were two that were not finished. So before I really got upset, I needed to do a little more digging. And that's when I found the two pieces. See, I had created all of that anxiety and frustration on the drive home, and none of which was necessary at all. But I love knowing that because in the future, it'll give me a point of reference to say, okay, calm down, gather a little more information. Could I be creating something in my head that isn't even a problem? Experience teaches you to look at the other side of the story in any situation. Your friend may tell you her side of the story of something that happened at work, but you can bet the other person would tell a story in a very different way. And let me say, neither will be wrong because both of them are entitled to their feelings, right? It's when we get ourselves all worked up and we're creating these problems for ourselves, it's because of habit patterns that our silly brain has. That's when it becomes a problem, though, when it's creating problems for us. Every emotion that I felt this week was perfectly normal and nothing has gone wrong. In fact, I'm better for having been through it because it gave me awareness. Awareness that I need to notice when I'm starting to jump to a conclusion before I have all the facts. Awareness that my meaning of a word and your meaning of a word are probably very different. And awareness that I might see green in a dress where someone else sees it as totally gray. It's awareness that I cannot possibly read your mind. And you cannot possibly read mine. I'm probably not thinking what you think I'm thinking, and vice versa. My challenge to you today is to ask yourself, how often am I creating misery in my head because someone doesn't text me back, or when they do text, I make it mean something it may not? How often am I creating fictitious conversations in my head that turn out to be completely wrong? How often am I jumping to a conclusion before I have all the facts? This can save us all a lot of anxiety and embarrassment. Trust me, I have experience at it. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.